Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And today we've got a former British tennis number one. Tim Henman is the man that the ladies fell in love with, and now there's a competition to find his balls. I didn't think I'd be saying that this morning. Tim, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
You know, I'm delicious, but I'm not as good as you. If I could be you for one day, it must be magical. What a life and career you've had.
High praise indeed. I'm very lucky, and you know, the opportunities I had and you know, centering around Wimbledon. My mum took me there for the first time when I was 6, and I saw Bjorn Borg play on centre court, and that was when I really made my one and only career decision. So I was lucky that I was able to, you know, follow my dreams and fulfil my dreams. So tennis and Wimbledon's always played a special part in my life.
I love people like you and your story because there's always a risk, isn't there? You're going to be rubbish and you're going to wake up at 35 living in your mum's basement and you've got no career and no life and it's all a big flop. At what point do you have to take the gamble that you're actually good enough to succeed as well as you have?
I think for me the gamble was probably 16. I was sort of a late developer, and so I was still quite small, and that is always going to influence your results in the junior game. So I wasn't, you know, kind of showing amazing promise at that stage, but I just had enormous hunger and desire to play the game and to practice hard and succeed. So that's definitely where my parents, you know, played a big part, had a big influence on my decision process, and I was desperate to leave school, and I think my parents realised that you could always go back to education, but you could never go back to being that 16-year-old ready to go out on the tour and learn one's trade. So that was where it was a bit of a gamble, but I always had a huge passion for the game, a huge desire, and you know, fortunately for me, it paid off.
I've always felt that the more talented you are, the more disciplined you have to be, and that means you're going to be miserable for many, many years learning your craft. How bad was it at times when you had to get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, and then you got to turn up and do the practicing, and then you got to come home from school and start practicing again? To get as good as you were doesn't come easy, does it?
No, it doesn't. But I don't agree that it has to be miserable. Yeah, there's some challenging times, but you've got to enjoy that process. And for me, that's where I felt very lucky, because what I was doing was what I always dreamt of doing. It was, you know, I loved the game. I loved everything that it was that was entailed with that, and the travel, the tournaments, the training. So I never felt like it was a sacrifice. It's what I wanted to do. And when you appreciate that it's a global game, if you're playing against the other best players in the world, that the competition is going to be very, very tough. And you know, we talk about commitment. When you're playing professional sport at the highest level, you understand that there's no grey areas. You know, you're either in or you're out, and the commitment has to be 100%. So I enjoyed that whole process, and you know, I was very lucky to have a career in tennis.
You and I are about the same age. We're both in our early 20s. And it seems to me that you were the first guy that made tennis sexy and started that hysteria. What did it feel like when you were front page of The Sun and The Mirror and The Star all those day after day after day, and that sort of frenzy of media hype around you? You know,
it was a new sort of scenario in this country. I can't really say that, you know, it was, you know, on a global scale, but certainly, you know, in the attention around and the focus on me at Wimbledon was pretty intense. But I sort of realised early on that it was important for me to do a good job controlling the things that I could control, and that was really around my preparation and performance. You know, what's been said in the newspapers or on television, you know, you can't control it. And so I kind of worked out pretty early on that it wasn't really worth my while reading the newspapers. I sort of tried to avoid all those distractions away from the court, because I knew that, you know, if I played well and put in good performances, you know, I was going to win a lot of my matches, and if I was winning my matches, a lot of those other things would take care of themselves. But I think the underlying theme was I loved it. You know, it was great fun. If I could have played my whole career on one court, it would have been the centre court at Wimbledon.
I think you should do courses on pressure, because I can't imagine what it must feel like to have to walk out centre court and have all those people staring at you, and the silence makes it even worse. And then you've got to sort of knock it to the back of the park and win the thing. How do you keep your nerve on those days at the final when everybody's staring at you?
Well, your mindset is very, very important, and you sort of have to understand that pressure is actually all self-inflicted. So, you know, it's only your you're talking about, you're painting a very high-pressured situation in your mind. You're focusing on all those people watching in the stadium, all those people out on the hill, all those millions watching on television. You can't focus on that. You want to be focusing on the way that you're going to play, the preparation that you've done, your game style, your game plan for the opponent, and how much you've worked to be in this situation. So I never viewed that as an added pressure. I viewed it as a motivation and extra excitement. So you can see how people do thrive in the conditions, or they can be really hindered by the conditions. And you look at the way Andy Murray plays. He's played a lot of his best tennis at Wimbledon, so that's definitely a good sign.
And as you know, I'm a deeply unattractive man. I don't turn eyes or heads from the ladies. What's it like being sexy?
I don't know if you're asking the right person, but the attention, whether you're on the court or off the court, it depends whether you're really interested in it. I was never really interested in it, but there are other people that probably thrive on it a little bit more and take advantage of that a bit more. But no, for me, I was more interested in being as good a tennis player as I could have been, rather than what was going on outside the court.
Do you feel you were born to do this? It seems to me, when I've seen you interviewed before and watch you on that court, it's like you were put on this planet to do what you've done. Could you imagine living another life? Was there anything else you have ever considered doing?
I don't necessarily agree that I was born to do this, because I had two older brothers that had the same opportunities as I did growing up, and one's a lawyer and one works in PR. But for me, sport played an enormous part of my childhood. From the age of 3, I played rugby, I played football, cricket, hockey, golf, squash and tennis. So I think if I hadn't played tennis, I would have played another sport, because I've always been pretty sports mad. But as I said, I started when I was 3. My mum took me to Wimbledon at 6, and that's when I knew what I wanted to do.
And of course, now you've evolved into this broadcaster, and as we can hear, you're utterly eloquent and you're able to sort of put across what you need to brilliantly. How has that transition been for you? I mean, because you've always come across as quite shy and private, yet on camera for the BBC, you do such an amazing job.
Well, thank you. I think when I was playing, again, when we were talking about all that focus of attention and the media and press, I felt I was trying to deflect that as much as possible, because I didn't want distractions. So I think there were times when I was perhaps guilty of giving the right answer rather than the honest answer, and that was my sort of defence mechanism. Whereas now, there aren't the concerns, the focus of attention on playing tennis. I can be a little bit more honest, but no, I've really enjoyed since I stopped playing 7 years ago, my involvement with the tournament, being on the tournament board, but also still working with the partners of Robinson's and HSBC, who are also involved at Wimbledon.
I might need your brother's help in a moment, because I'm going to try and say this. The Great Robinson's Ball Hunt, phew, we got away with that, is happening from the 25th of June until the 7th of July. Tell us about this.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's really celebrating their 80-year partnership with Wimbledon, and they are hiding 8 giant tennis balls across the UK, and they're all in relevant sort of tennis locations. And from the 25th of June, if you follow @DrinkRobinsons on Twitter, they'll give you loads of different clues to find out where those giant balls are. Then if you tweet a picture of the ball using #HuntForWimbledon, you've got a chance of winning a great VIP day out at Wimbledon.
So if I spend my afternoon hunting for your balls, where am I likely to find them then?
Yeah, there's 8 of them. Believe it or not. And they are, all around the country. The clues will be, fairly cryptic, but hopefully you'll be able to find them. And as I said, if you've got a camera, tweet a picture and you can win a brilliant day out. robinsonsquash.co.uk/hunt4Wimbledon will get you there. And if you find these balls, what do we win? You've got a chance of winning a VIP day out at Wimbledon and some more fantastic prizes. So, I think it would be a bit of fun, but could be very worthwhile.
Tim, it's been great talking to you. I'm such a big fan of you. Anybody who disciplines themselves the way that you have to achieve the greatness that you did, and now to do it as a broadcaster too, deserves great applause. Good to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.